The Hunger Games, a sleepy summary. As we prepare for rest, please know this summary is a gentle introduction intended to honor, not simplify, the original narrative. It is my hope that these condensed words offer a calming companion and inspire you to explore the full brilliance of Suzanne Collins' original work. The true depth of the Hunger Games extends far beyond what these few minutes can hold. Consider this a soft invitation to experience the richness of the story itself. Her name is Katniss Everdeen, and she is 16 years old, and she wakes before dawn on the morning of the reaping. The reaping is the day each year when two children are chosen, one girl, one boy, between the ages of 12 and 18, to represent their district in the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games are a televised event in which 24 children, 2 from each of the 12 districts of Panem, are placed in an outdoor arena and required to fight each other until only one is left alive. The winner receives a life of wealth and comfort. The losers receive nothing because the losers are dead. This has been happening every year for 74 years, and the people of the districts have had 74 years to understand that there is nothing they can do about it. Panem is what remains of North America after a series of disasters, ecological, political, violence that are mostly in the past and mostly unspecified. The kind of history that gets condensed into before and after without much attention to the middle. The capital is at the center of Panem, literally and politically. A gleaming, extravagant city in the Rocky Mountains where people dye their skin and surgically reshape their faces and watch children kill each other on television with the enthusiastic engagement of people who have forgotten or never known what it means to be hungry. The districts exist around the capital in concentric rings of decreasing privilege, each one assigned a specific industry to serve the capital's needs. District 12, where Katniss lives, is a coal mining district, and it is among the poorest, and it sits in what used to be Appalachia, and it smells of coal dust and feels of a particular gray exhaustion that comes from generations of insufficient food. Katniss has been feeding her family since she was 11 years old. Her father died in a mine explosion when she was 11, and her mother collapsed inward after that, not cruelly, not intentionally, but completely, in the way of someone whose grief was total and whose return from it was slow and incomplete. Katniss's little sister Prim was 8 when their father died, and Katniss was 11 and there was no food. And the thing that saved them was that Katniss's father had, before he died, taught her to hunt. He had taught her to use a bow in the woods outside the district fence, which is illegal. The fence is electrified. The woods are forbidden. The rules about leaving the district are clear. But the rules about leaving the district are enforced unevenly, and a 12-year-old girl feeding her family by hunting rabbits and selling them quietly in the Hob, which is District 12's black market, is not the kind of violation that the peacekeepers tend to pursue aggressively. Katniss is very good with a bow. She is also very good at trapping, at identifying edible plants, at moving quietly and reading the woods and providing what her family needs. She does this with her friend Gale Hawthorne, who is 18 and tall and angry in the specific way of someone who sees things clearly and cannot stop seeing them. They meet before dawn in the woods most mornings, and they hunt and trap and trade, and they talk the way people talk when they are entirely themselves with each other, which is the most comfortable kind of talking there is. Gale is the kind of friend you lean on without thinking about whether leaning is appropriate. He has been there in the dark before dawn for years. On reaping day, she wears a special dress, and she braids her dark hair, and she tries to keep her face still. Because stillness is something Katniss has learned as a survival strategy. If you do not let people see what you are afraid of, they cannot use it. She goes with Prim to the town square where the reaping happens, where the children are arranged by age in roped-off sections, where the square is surrounded by peacekeepers and the capital's cameras, where the mayor will read the history of Panem and the Treaty of Treason, And then Effie Trinket will step forward and reach into the glass bowl and pull out a name. Effie Trinket is District 12's escort, the capital-assigned official who manages the district's relationship with the Hunger Games. She is brightly dyed and brightly dressed and brightly enthusiastic about everything in the way of someone who has never had to be afraid of anything, and therefore finds the general situation of life exciting rather than threatening. She means well, perhaps, or she has simply never been asked to consider whether meaning well is sufficient. Prim's name is in the bowl once, only once. She is 12, it is her first reaping. And the Tesserae system, which allows children to enter their names additional times in exchange for small amounts of oil and grain, means that the children of the poorest families have their names in the bowl the most times, accumulating year after year, so that by 18 a child from a desperately poor family might have their name in the bowl dozens of times. Katniss has 20 entries this year. Prim has 1. The odds are not good for any child standing in that square, but they are about as good for Prim as odds get in District 12. Effie Trinket reaches into the bowl for the girl's name. She pulls out a slip. She reads it clearly into the microphone. Primrose Everdeen. The crowd goes absolutely still. Katniss does not think. This is important. She does not make a decision in the way that implies calculation and choice and weighing of options. She simply moves, pushing through the crowd, reaching the front, saying the only words that exist in her in that moment. I volunteer. I volunteer as tribute. This is not something that happens in District 12. Volunteering to take someone else's place in the Hunger Games requires either tremendous courage or tremendous hopelessness, and most years in District 12 people have neither in sufficient quantity. But Katniss has both, in a way she has never needed to examine before. And she is walking toward the stage before she has finished saying the words, and Prim is behind her calling her name, and being held back by people who understand that Katniss has made a choice that cannot be unmade. Katniss stands on the stage. She does not cry. She knows better than to cry where the Capitol's cameras can see, because crying is something to be done in private in the dark, where it cannot be recorded and edited and turned into content. She holds her face still. She is already performing. The boy's name is drawn next, Peeta Mellark. He is also 16. He is the son of the baker, which in District 12 means he is not well off by any definition that matters in the broader world, but is somewhat less desperately hungry than most. He is broad-shouldered and blue-eyed, and he has a quality of stillness and solidity about him that is different from Katniss's stillness. Hers is protective, a closed door, while his is more like a foundation, a thing that can hold weight. Katniss looks at him on the stage and remembers something from years ago, something she has thought about since without quite resolving it. When she was 11, after her father died, after her mother went away inside herself in the worst of the hungry time, Katniss went to the bakery to look in the trash bins. Not to beg, she had already learned that begging did not work and dignity was one of the few things she had not yet had to surrender, but to see if there was anything usable in what the bakery had thrown away. There was not. And Peeta's mother came out and saw her and spoke sharply, sending her away. But on the way back she noticed Peeta standing by the bakery, and he looked at her. And then he deliberately burned 2 loaves of bread, and his mother hit him on the ear for it. And then he threw the burned loaves to Katniss rather than the pigs. That was what you did with burned bread, it went to the pigs. He gave it to her instead. She took it home and fed her family, and the next day she saw the first dandelion of spring, which sounds like a small thing but felt like a sign that winter might actually end, that survival was actually possible, and she associates Peeta Mellark, without quite meaning to, with the turn from winter to spring. She has never thanked him. She has not spoken to him since. This is the first time they have been in the same space with any significance in 5 years. And now they are going to the Capitol together to compete in an event in which one of them will be expected to kill the other. They are put on a train. The train to the Capitol is extraordinary by District 12 standards. It has food in quantities Katniss has never seen assembled in one place, and hot water and beds, and windows that show the country going past. Their mentor, the person assigned to coach them through the games, is a man named Haymitch Abernathy. Haymitch won the Hunger Games 24 years ago, which means he is the only living victor from District 12, which means he is the only option for a mentor, which means that District 12's tributes have been mentored for 2 decades by a man who responds to the annual obligation of watching children he knows go off to die by drinking himself into a reliable stupor. He is drunk when they meet him. He is drunk for most of the train ride. He falls into his food at dinner and has to be helped to his room. Katniss is angry about this, in the straightforward way of someone who has been relying on herself for so long that encountering incompetence feels like a personal affront. She grabs Haymitch's arm and tells him she wants actual advice. He looks at her, really looks, in the way he has not yet, and something shifts. He asks her to show him something, and she throws a knife into the wall with a precision that makes him sit up straighter, and he agrees, with a specificity that suggests he is more alert than he has been appearing, to try. Peeta and Katniss talk on the train, in the careful way of two people who are going to the same place for purposes that put them in direct conflict, and who are not yet sure how to navigate this. Peeta is thoughtful and direct in a way Katniss finds difficult to categorize. He says things that feel genuine rather than strategic, which is suspicious in the context of the Hunger Games but feels, in the particular quality of his delivery, simply true. He has spent his life watching Katniss without ever finding a way to speak to her. He tells her this on the train. She does not know what to do with it. The capital arrives. The capital is everything District 12 is not: bright and excessive and full of people who have too much of everything, and who wear their extravagance with the ease of people who have never considered that extravagance requires resources that come from somewhere. Katniss and Peter ride into the city on chariots for the opening ceremonies, dressed by their stylist Cinna in costumes that represent District 12's coal industry. What Cinna does with this unpromising material is extraordinary. He dresses them in black and sets them on fire. Not real fire, but a very convincing synthetic flame that makes them glow. And they hold hands as their chariot moves through the crowd. And the crowd reacts the way crowds react when they see something beautiful and unexpected, which is to say with the kind of noise that has a physical quality, a pressure. Katniss is the girl on fire. She did not choose this. Cinna chose it for her. But the name is going to follow her, and the image of the two of them burning together, holding hands, refusing to look small, that image is going to matter more than she knows yet. Training begins. The tributes from all 12 districts are given several days to practice with various weapons and skills before private evaluations with the game makers, who assign each tribute a training score from 1 to 12 that affects how many sponsors they can attract. Sponsors are wealthy capital citizens who can send supplies into the arena, food, medicine, equipment, through small parachutes that arrive like gifts from above. Sponsors can keep you alive. Katniss watches the other tributes during training. The tributes from Districts 1 and 2 are called careers. They come from the richer districts. They have trained their whole lives for the games in a way that is technically illegal, but that the capital permits because the career districts win more often, and it makes for better television. They are large and confident, and they practice their weapons with the fluency of people who have never been afraid of them. Katniss sizes them up the way she sizes up prey in the woods, assessing speed, weakness, habit. She is not intimidated exactly. She has been in dangerous situations before, but she is very clear-eyed about what she is looking at. Her private session with the game makers goes unexpectedly. She shoots 3 arrows for them while they are distracted by a roasted pig at the table and paying no attention, and her third arrow pins their tablecloth to the wall and scatters their food, and she says thank you and leaves. This is not the recommended approach to a game maker's evaluation. It is, however, satisfying. She receives an 11 out of 12, the highest score of any tribute that year, which is either a reward for her skill or a message from the game makers that they are not embarrassed, or both. The interviews happen the night before the games. Each tribute is given 3 minutes with the Capitol's interviewer, Caesar Flickerman, who is professionally charming and has been hosting the interviews for a very long time, and who has the particular skill of making everyone he talks to seem more interesting than they thought they were. Katniss finds the coached performance of Warmth very difficult. She is remote and competent and self-contained by nature and by necessity, and being asked to perform Warmth is not the same as having warmth, though she has warmth buried under several layers of survival mechanism. Peeta's interview is the last one of the night, and it is the one that changes everything. Caesar asks him if there is a special girl back home, and Peeta, who is facing the cameras and the crowd and the whole watching Capitol with the steadiness of someone who has made a decision, says yes. And Caesar presses him, and Peeta says that it is the girl he came with, Katniss. That he has been in love with her since he was 5 years old, standing in school and hearing her sing, and that coming here with her is the cruelest thing the Capitol has done to him, because now he has a chance and now it means nothing. The crowd responds with the emotionally gratified noise of people who have just been given a love story to hold on to. Katniss watches this from the wings. She is furious. She confronts Peeta after the interviews, and he says calmly that it is a strategy, that it will gain him sponsors, that it makes her more likable, that people want to protect the girl someone loves. She is not certain she believes this is purely strategy. She is not certain Peeta is capable of purely strategy. She pushes this to the back of her mind and goes to bed, and in the morning the games begin. The arena that year is a forest. Katniss steps onto her platform and the 60-second countdown begins, and she scans the cornucopia, the gold horn-shaped structure at the center of the starting circle from which supplies and weapons radiate outward. Haymitch told her to run for the woods and not look back, to find water, to use her skills. She follows this advice mostly. She runs, but she grabs a backpack on the way, and then the bloodbath begins behind her and she runs and does not look back. The first day in the arena has the quality of sustained alertness that is its own kind of exhausting. The hypervigilance of being in a place where threat could come from any direction at any time, where you cannot fully sleep or fully rest, where every sound requires interpretation. Katniss climbs a tree for the first night and ties herself to a branch and sleeps in short intervals, listening. She finds water. She finds food from plants she recognizes. She is methodical and experienced in survival in a way that most of the other tributes are not, because most of them have not been surviving in genuine wilderness since they were 11. The career tributes form an alliance, as they always do, the tributes from Districts 1, 2, and 4, large and trained and moving together through the arena with the efficiency of a hunting party. They have Peeta with them, which Katniss sees from her tree and does not understand. He is showing them where to go, it appears, or at least traveling with them. She does not know what to make of this. She stores it alongside the bread from years ago and the interview and the general problem of Peeta Mellark, which is a problem she cannot quite close. On the second night, she is in her tree when the careers camp below it. They cannot climb to her. They wait. And then something falls from another tree nearby, a small orange, tied with a bit of cloth, and Katniss looks up and finds in the branches above her a girl. A small girl from District 11, dark-haired and dark-eyed and very young, 12 years old, who has been up in the canopy avoiding everything with the silent patience of someone who is very small and very frightened and very smart. Her name is Rue. Rue points above Katniss's head. There is a tracker-jacker nest in the branch above them, tracker-jackers being genetically engineered wasps whose venom causes hallucinations, and in large enough quantities, death. Katniss, in the middle of the night, saws through the branch with her knife and drops the nest on the careers below. They scatter, stung. 2 of them die. Katniss drops to the ground in the chaos and takes a bow and arrows from the tribute who died with them beside her, the best bow she has touched since her father's, and she runs. She has also been stung, and the venom begins to work, and the world goes strange and terrifying around her, and she runs as long as she can and then falls. She wakes up. It has been some time, she does not know how much. She is dehydrated and weak, and the tracker-jacker hallucinations are fading, leaving the particular afterimage of something terrible that happened while she was not fully in control of her mind. Rue is there. Rue has been watching over her, pulling leaves off the tracker-jacker stings, keeping her safe while she was unconscious in the way of someone who has decided, quietly and completely, that Katniss is worth watching over. They make an alliance, Katniss and Rue. They are not strategic partners exactly. They are not the same in terms of what they offer the other. They are more like something that does not have a clean category in the context of the Hunger Games, which is that they simply like each other, and trust each other, and want the other to be okay. Rue is clever and light and quick. She knows plants and she has perfect pitch and she can navigate the trees almost as well as Katniss can. She reminds Katniss of Prim, in the specific way of small fierce girls who have had to be tougher than they should have had to be, and this comparison does nothing to make Katniss feel more comfortable about what the Hunger Games require her to ultimately do. They make a plan. The careers have a pile of supplies in the center of the arena, food, medicine, everything they need to outlast the other tributes. Katniss will destroy the supplies. Rue will create a series of fires at the edges of the arena to draw the careers away while Katniss gets close enough to do it. The plan works better than it has any right to. The fires work, the careers disperse, Katniss gets to the supply pile and discovers it is booby-trapped and uses a well-placed arrow to trigger the trap from a distance. The resulting explosion is very large. The supplies are gone. She goes to find Rue. She hears Rue singing first, the signal they agreed on. The 4-note birdsong that meant safe, I am here, everything is all right. And then the singing stops in the particular way that means everything is not all right. Katniss runs, she is too late. Rue is caught in a net, and a boy from District 1 has a spear, and Katniss shoots the boy before he can throw it, but the spear is already in the air and it has already found Rue, and there is nothing to be done for it. She stays with Rue. She does not leave her there alone. She pulls the spear out as gently as she can, and she holds Rue's hand, and Rue asks if the plan worked, and Katniss tells her yes, which is true. The supplies are gone, and Rue asks Katniss to sing, and Katniss sings. Her voice is not steady. She sings a lullaby from District 12, the kind her father used to sing, the kind that names the birds and tells them to go to sleep. And Rue goes to sleep in the way that is not sleep. And Katniss covers her with flowers because Rue liked flowers. She mentioned them once, and it is the only thing Katniss can think of to do for her. Then she stands up. And somewhere in the capital, someone is watching this on television, and it is being broadcast to all 12 districts. And what the capital audience sees is a 16-year-old girl covering a 12-year-old girl with flowers, refusing to treat her as just a tribute, insisting on her humanity in a place specifically designed to strip it away. This is not a performance, or rather it is a performance only in the sense that everything done in the arena is by definition watched and recorded. What Katniss feels is real. What she does comes from the real feeling. But it will be seen by people who are not in the arena, and the seeing of it will matter in ways that extend far beyond the arena. After Rue, the capital announces a rule change. A new rule. For the first time in the history of the Hunger Games, 2 victors can be declared if they are from the same district. The announcement is made in the arena to all the remaining tributes, and the implication is clear. If the tributes from a district stay together and the other tributes die, they can both win. Katniss knows immediately exactly what this means. It means find Peeta. She finds him half buried in mud at the edge of a stream, camouflaged so well that she nearly walks past him. He is badly wounded, a gash on his leg from the careers, infected, severe enough that he is feverish and drifting in and out of clarity. She cleans it, treats it with what she has, keeps him warm. He jokes with her in the delirious way of someone whose fever is doing part of the talking. And even delirious, he is warm and dry in some fundamental way that Katniss finds simultaneously difficult to handle and unexpectedly comforting. She has to keep him alive. She has medical supplies, but not the right ones. She needs medicine for blood poisoning, and she does not have it. A silver parachute arrives, broth, better than nothing. Another parachute, burn medicine. She and Peeta are the romantic story the Capitol wants, and the Capitol's appetite for romance is generating resources she can use to keep him alive. She accepts this equation. She is practical. She kisses him when the cameras are on them and tells herself it is strategy, and feels the edges of this being not entirely true and puts that feeling somewhere to examine later. She needs better medicine. Haymitch is not sending it, which means he wants something from her first. She decides what he wants is more of the story, more of the romance, more of the image, and she gives it to him, and the medicine arrives. She is not entirely performing. This is the thing she does not quite say to herself, but the thing the reader understands clearly from the outside. Katniss is not entirely performing. The tracker-jacker venom did something to Peeta's memories of her, muddying them. He asks her in the cave where they shelter, what is real, and what is the game's talking? She does not have a complete answer. She has always been better at surviving than at knowing what she feels, because feeling things and surviving were, for a long time, competing priorities. She holds his hand and watches the fever break and stays close and lets herself be. For this small window in the middle of the worst thing she has ever been through, not entirely alone. The last few days in the arena have the quality of a narrowing, fewer tributes, higher tension, events moving faster. The game makers release mutations, engineered wolf-like creatures that drive the remaining tributes to the cornucopia. There is Katniss and Peeta and Cato, the tribute from District 2, who is the last career standing, big and trained and aware that he is losing. The Mutts corner them at the top of the cornucopia, and Cato has Peeta in a chokehold, and Katniss shoots Cato in the hand to make him drop Peeta, and Cato falls. And the Mutts are there, and it takes until morning before Katniss ends it for him. An act of mercy more than anything else, because prolonged suffering serves nothing. They are the last two. Katniss and Peeta on top of the cornucopia as dawn arrives. By every rule that has existed for 74 years, one of them should kill the other now. The Capitol announces that it is rescinding the rule change, only one victor as always, as it has always been. There is silence in the arena except for their breathing. Peeta tells Katniss to shoot him. She does not. Instead, she reaches into her pocket where she has been keeping the nightlock berries. Nightlock being an immediately lethal poison berry that one of the tributes accidentally ate and died from earlier in the games. And she holds half of them out to Peeta and keeps half for herself, and she looks at the cameras. And she says that if they want a victor, they will have two or they will have none. The Capitol cannot let them both die. Two victors is a manipulable story, containable, possibly even useful. Two tributes dying in defiance is something else entirely. It is a message. It is the kind of image that does not go away. The announcement comes before either of them can swallow the berries. Stop. They are both victors. They have won. They are pulled from the arena by hovercraft, treated medically, cleaned and dressed, and prepared for the victor's ceremony. Haymitch pulls Katniss aside before she sees Peeta again and tells her urgently, quietly, with the directness of someone who has been managing this situation from the outside and sees what she cannot, that the capital is not happy. What she did with the berries was not a romantic gesture to most of the capital's audience. It was a challenge. It looked like defiance. It was defiance, whether or not Katniss framed it to herself that way, and the capital does not accept defiance, and the people in charge are looking for a way to interpret her action as innocence rather than rebellion, and she needs to help them find that interpretation. She needs to be the girl so in love with Peeta that she could not bear to be without him. She needs this to be a love story, clearly and completely. Katniss understands this. She is good at surviving. She has always been good at surviving. On the train home, she and Peeta sit together and she is close to him and warm with him. And she thinks about what is real and what is strategy, and finds the boundary harder to locate than it used to be. Peeta reaches for her hand and she lets him have it, and she is tired in the deep way of someone who has been awake and alert and afraid for weeks. And the train moves through the dark toward home and she is alive. They are alive. That is what she holds onto. But Peeta is watching her, in the gentle, attentive way he has always watched her, and he asks her a question. A quiet question, not aggressive, not accusatory, just honest in the way he is always honest. About whether any of it was real for her or whether it was all the games, all strategy, all survival. And Katniss does not have an answer that is simple or clean. She knows what she feels about Gale, or she thinks she knows. The old, uncomplicated warmth of years of shared mornings in the woods. She knows less than she thought she did about what she feels about Peeta, which is its own kind of answer, because things you feel clearly do not tend to require this much examining. She says something. He hears the thing she does not quite say. The train moves on. District 12 appears in the window. The seam. The gray and the coal dust and the people who will come out to greet them. Prim will be there. Her mother will be there. Gale will be somewhere in the crowd, watching in the specific way of someone who has watched the whole games on television and has seen everything and is working out what it means. The crowd roars when they arrive, and the cameras catch it all. And somewhere in the capital someone is deciding what this means and what to do about it. And somewhere in the 12 districts, people who have been watching the games for 74 years watched a girl hold out a handful of berries and say no, and felt something they have not felt in a very long time. And that feeling does not have a simple name, but it has a direction. Katniss is home. Katniss is alive. The world she came back to is the same world she left, gray and hungry and watched. And it is also, in some way she cannot yet measure, slightly different. Something has shifted. Something small but not nothing. A handful of berries and a girl who refused, and a fire that has not yet decided where it is going. But that is tomorrow's story. Tonight there is just the train pulling into the station and Prim's face in the crowd and Katniss taking her first breath of home air and the long sleep that comes after surviving something you were not sure you would survive. Sleep now. She made it. They both made it. The woods are quiet and the fence is behind you and the cold gray morning of the seam is very far away. The fire is just beginning. But for tonight, rest. Good night.